Welcome to Hot Topics. So Stacy says he's here first. We haven't had Hot Topics in a few weeks, but let me go ahead and change this real fast because it's a little bit different. Let me do this. Let me change that little top part there. Bam, there we go. Yeah. So I wasn't originally going to do Hot Topics, but our schedule had changed last minute. Y'all pray for Danny. She not feeling good. So since since we get to be home, I get to do Hot Topics, and I've been talking about this topic for weeks now, and I've been kind of, I guess you could say, avoiding this topic, and that's not like me, ain't that right, babe? So, um, and the reason why I've been avoiding this topic, it's not because I don't care about this topic. It's that our focus as a church shouldn't be on this topic. And I'm gonna tell you why here in a minute, because I think we are all distracted by stupidity. And I'm gonna tell you right now, government's corrupt. I don't care what side it is. Okay. And I don't care how it goes all the way down to the lowest government to the highest government. It's all corrupt. I mean, corruption's in it. That's why it says in the Geneva Bible, the original Old Testament, New Testament Bible, it actually says in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, that we do wrestle against worldly governors because government is corrupt. Power corrupts. Man can, I don't care what anyone says, man cannot have enough, man can't have power because power will corrupt them. And we see that all the time, and that's why we always we always tell pastors not to be mayors of their city. How can you enforce? It doesn't work, right? Something always happens, and so um, I was actually looking for a verse that was given to me today that Jesus said. Um, so let me look down here because I'm look, bitty bing. Anyway, I'll find it here in a minute. But anyway, so the church's number one job. Hey, Abby. Hey, Remy. So the church's job is not to worry about what the world is doing. That's the first thing I need to tell you. You can see what the world is doing. You can discuss it. You live in the world, so you can vote against things. But when your focus becomes 100% on the world, then you're not focusing on what Jesus told you to do. And for those that don't know, Michael. So again, for everybody coming on late, our schedule changed last minute this evening. Y'all be praying for Danny. She's not feeling good. Nothing serious. She just weather changes. We're not used to it going from -4 degrees to 70 degrees in 1 second. So, but it was what's crazy. It's in the mid 50s and there's still snow on the ground. We're not used to that either. So, but anyway, I want to talk this evening. Here's what Hot Topics is. It's been this way since 2020 when we started Hot Topics. Hot Topics is today's topics from a Christian perspective. This is that moment where I'm going to talk about current events, and Stacy loves these. I think I'm going to talk about current events, but I'm also going to give you a biblical perspective on it and redirect because it's about redirection. Anytime the Israelites or the Hebrews they would get off on a in left field, God would redirect them. And so I've had people lately say, "I'll never vote again. I'll never vote again." Here's my vote: exercise your right to vote because if you're not voting, somebody else is. They're like, "Well, I don't trust the system." Okay, you don't trust the system, but we need to change the system. How do you do that? By exercising your right. There are people in other nations that don't ever get a vote. We actually get a vote. And so you have a voice. See, certain government wants to take your voice from you, but you have a voice. Use your voice. Use it in at the voting booth. Use it. And look, there's plenty of loud voices out there, but there are ways to stop the things from happening. That are happening in our world, and look, it's not going to get any better. It's not. The Bible explicitly tells us over and over again that the world in prophecy will get worse. Jesus said, okay, his words, these things must come to pass. There are a lot of Christians freaking out right now. They're like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? If you're in the Ark of the Covenant, right? If you're in the atonement, if you're in his presence, it doesn't matter what is done in the government because you know how the story ends. One of my favorite quotes by Billy Graham, he says, I know how the Bible ends. That's why he's not worried about what it's going to look like. Does it affect you here? Do you have to live it? Yes. Do you have to let it live you? No, you don't. And that's the problem is people are chasing these things. Their eyes are so laser focused on the world and what's happening in the world that they're losing sight of the Great Commission. Do you know why the Great Commission is not being fulfilled? Is because we're not going out and doing the work of the Lord, and that's the problem with why we're not seeing a change. I had a great conversation today. I was able to talk about with a great pastor, Rick Warren, who said, we got to gossip the gospel. We spend so much time tearing each other down, and we don't take time to gossip about the gospel. There's so much gossip out there, and you see it all over Facebook. And I'm going to talk about the list here in a minute because there's some questions I have about the list. And yes, I'm talking about that list. But what I'm saying, and I got something that's probably going to get me in trouble. But you know me. I don't, honestly, I'm going to say it because someone has to. Someone has to be a voice of reason in these times, in these dark times. And I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're Democrat. It is two heads to one snake, okay? It's just, I vote Republican because, well, Republicans aren't trying to murder babies and mutilate their children. That's why I voted Republican. But I don't trust Republican. I don't trust Democrat. I trust Jesus Christ. I trust the Bible. So for me, it's not about a political party. It's about a biblical party, and that's the party of Jesus. And trust me, there's going to be a party in heaven. So, um, yeah, we know how it ends. That's it. He said, "Dead woman walking." So this is more of an uncut Brandon speaking about uh, um, today's topics from a Christian perspective or a follower of Christ. Should we be more, I guess you can say, transparent? And so Jesus said, these things must come to pass. What must come to pass? Wars, rumors of wars. Nation will turn against nation, kingdom against kingdom. These things has to happen. They have to happen for the end times to come, for the end to happen. And so we as followers of Christ should not get worried, but in reversal, we should be excited that these things begin to come to pass because we know the end is coming. And for us, there's a thing called the blessed hope. And that means Jesus Christ is coming for us. So the worse it gets for the world, remember, if you watched Wednesday night's Bible study, the judgment falls for the righteous, it elevates us. So why worry about what's going to happen, because we already know what's going to happen. That's why Jesus said don't worry about tomorrow, because if we worry about tomorrow, we completely miss today. And because tomorrow is going to, it said it'll worry about itself. And so we end up finding ourselves so depressed, so full of anxiety, so full of fear, and so many Christians are running to the pastors. What do we do? What do we do? Pray. Get in the word, relax, because Jesus said, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. He says these things must come to pass. They have to happen for the end to come. And so it's much like when all these prophets came out and prophesied that Trump was going to win in 2020? They said he was going to win. He was going to win. I came out during right at the when the election started. I said he will not win, because the evil that's being exposed now would not have been exposed in 2020 if Trump would have been in office then. It has to be exposed. They had to be allowed breathing room. Okay, that's how you get the Ilhan Omars and the court and whatever her name is, AOCs, and all these different names. You get all them coming out, and darkness is being exposed on both sides because it had to happen a certain way. Scripture actually says God ordains our leaders. There's a reason He does things and allows things. You can say stolen election all day long, stolen, 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 but if God didn't allow it to happen, it wouldn't have happened that way. It has to happen a certain way so that the end times can be staged perfectly for the prophecy to be fulfilled. So I see Christians jumping on a bandwagon all the time. And here's the thing. You see all of these things about racism, okay? Racism's out there. Racism is being brought back up. The race card's being thrown out. Every little thing you say is being scrutinized upon racism. Look, I get it. Racism's real, but I'm just going to be upfront, 100% honest to you. Every race has its racism. You have Koreans don't like South Koreans. North Koreans don't like South Koreans. Mexicans don't like Cubans. I've seen it with my own eyes. And, you don't believe me, don't call a Cuban a Mexican. They get mad at you. And so every race has its own racism. Racism is in every culture. It's not just whites hating on blacks. It's not, and we see this and we run with it. I'll give you an example, okay? And I've said this before, but look, Trump's not perfect. But okay, he posted a video. He didn't post it. His guy posted a video, and it showed the Obamas in an unlikely manner. Now, I didn't come on immediately and say anything because I wanted to see how the church reacted. Okay, I'm just going to be, me, I'm upfront. I'm not a racist person, but I believe racism is real. But if we're going to call out racism, let's call it out on both sides, right? And so they immediately started calling Trump a racist. Now, with that being said, I don't know his heart, okay? And be honest with you, I don't think he's racist. I've seen him do things to prove that he's not. But again, I know, I don't know his heart. Just like many of you don't know if he's truly saved or not because you don't know his heart. Oh, I heard him say this word. Well, that doesn't mean his heart is wrong in what he's doing. He could have asked forgiveness immediately and you don't know. So now you're judging him based off of something you saw because God told Samuel, he said that I see to the matters of the heart, man looks to the outer appearance. So let's talk about racism. I love what Morgan Freeman said. That he was asked by a commentator, by a podcaster. He said, "How do we end racism?" Morgan Freeman said, "Stop talking about it." He said, "Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man." He said, "You're going to stop calling me a black man." How do we stop it? Well, we just stop drawing attention to it. Church, how do you stop evil from winning? Stop drawing attention and giving power to evil. Scripture says we overcome evil by good. We have to do good to overcome evil. But what if we still give evil the light? What if we keep giving evil the platform? What if every week we preach about demons, but we don't preach about the saving grace of Jesus? Well, now all of a sudden demons take over the church. They're manifesting during services. Preachers have to stop preaching the word of God to go cast out a demon. That demon wasn't going to go nowhere anyway. He was just trying to distract you from giving a word to somebody that needed to get saved in the back. Is this good, babe? Okay, this is hot topics. And so what's happening is the church unloads all of their fears in church and Satan preys on it. So let's racism. They said, "Oh, he's racist. He's racist." This and I saw somebody post it. Well, Trump's being racist, but here's my thing. Racism is based off of an ethnicity or a skin color. How many times have we heard someone call Trump the orange man? Let me back up. The same person that I saw posted about Trump being racist calls him Orange Man because his skin is a different pigment. Is that not a form of racism? Oh, I ain't going to bed. You tell that cat she better wait. But is that not a form of racism? When they're making fun of his skin color, they make fun of the way he talks. They make fun of the way he walks. All discriminatory language against him from the beginning. That is a form of racism. So the same people that called him racist are calling, him racist remarks. They even make fun of his wife. Same people that are mad at him because of things he said about illegal immigrants make fun of his immigrant wife. Hypocrisy at its finest. So you can't, and these are Christians I'm talking about. These are people that label themselves as followers of Christ who are making fun of an immigrant woman and her husband's skin tone, but yet he's the racist one. Where does that make sense? And so, if we're going to call out racism, let's call it out on all sides. It's not racism if a white man calls a black man a certain name, right? But it's racism if a white man makes fun of a black man, but it's not racism if a black man makes fun of a white man. We were watching a TV show the other day, and we were watching it, and this guy literally, it was this black man making fun of this white man because he had a high ponytail and called him a Viking man. Is that not racism? But no one says any that there wasn't no famous memes about it. There wasn't 1,000. This thing didn't go viral. Why? Because, oh well, they can't be racist. See what I'm saying? You know where I'm going here. And so if we're gonna call it racism, let's call it out. Let's talk about racism for a minute. We want to deport all illegal immigrants. You're racist. Okay. But all of a sudden, you can say whatever you want about Jews, and it's not racist. Oh, the Jews are hateful people. Oh, the Jews this. Oh, the Jews that. See, if we come against illegal Somalian daycares, we're racist. We come against illegal immigration, or we support them deporting illegal immigrants for breaking the law. We're racist, but they can come out and blame everything on Jewish people, and that's not racist. My mind's about to blow on this mess because I'm astonished by the stupidity of the American people. I am just amazed that we still have our country. Y'all saw the last 4 years of presidency. You had a president couldn't put a sentence together. Everything was signed by a robot, and yet we're still a country. That's the grace of God that we're still a nation. If it wasn't for God, America would already be destroyed by itself too. Nobody had to destroy America; just release their government. And then everybody's like, "Well, uh, well, this side's better than this side." Let me explain something to you. And I looked this up and I verified it. What is the one profession that, if I said, is full of liars? What would you say it was? Profession, not elected. Lawyers, attorneys. Think about this for a minute. You put For those of you that put your trust in your government officials, let me go ahead and tell you. You look at this, look this up. It's true. The majority of congressmen, women, and senators are all former attorneys or current attorneys. Let me explain something to you about an attorney. They get paid by you to defend you, whether you're right or wrong. That's why they're called liars. You can rape someone, hire a defense attorney, and his job is to fight for your freedom, even if you're guilty. So if I was to pay a congressman or an attorney $4 million to allow marriage of humans and animals, they would advocate for me. That's called lobbyists, by the way, because now they're my defend. They're my defend. I'm their defendant. They're my attorney. We have turned our government into a bunch of defense attorneys trying to defend one group or the other, and it's no longer about the American people. And we wonder why America's collapsing because we're putting our trust in the hands of attorneys that we wouldn't normally trust. Ah, but people don't think about that, do they? I would love to see our government full of people who aren't lawyers. We're too big on labels. We also shouldn't have to call ourselves Christians either. You're right, we're followers of Christ. People should know that by how we act. You shouldn't have to label yourself as Christians. Jesus said they'll know you by your fruits. You'll know them by their fruits. And I'm sorry, today's topic may offend some people because I had some friends who jumped on this racism bandwagon. Let me explain something to you. A few weeks back, the video came out. Everybody was a different animal. Okay. AI did it, by the way. Nobody made it a certain way. So you should be getting on to artificial intelligence. But yeah, should the video been posted? No, I think it's stupidity. Honestly, it was a stupid video. Made no sense really to me. It was just, I don't think it should have been posted. But here's the problem with it. Immediately, a bunch of his supporters turned on him. Christian people, followers of Christ, people that advocated, I don't condone racism. You need to make a public apology. Where were you when everybody was bashing the Jews? Where were you? Where you weren't boycotting any other racism remarks? Where were you when they were calling him Orange Man? Where were you when they were making fun of his wife? Where were you when they were making fun of JD Vance's wife, who, by the way, is not of a nationality of white? She's Indian, I believe. I may have got that wrong, but I think so. Where were you when Pocahontas, the governoress or senator, was saying that she was Native American and she's whiter than the eggs you buy at the store? Where were you when Kamala Harris was trying to pick whatever nationality she was? Were you boycotting her racism? No, but you were so quick to jump on the bandwagon to bash Trump over a video he didn't even post, and it was removed. Where were you? No, what you are is you're trying to save face. You know what this reminded me of? And this is what irked me because when the Black Lives Matter came out, and I wasn't even a pastor at that time. I was still a police officer. And when Black Lives Matter came out, everybody was kneeling at the feet of what they were calling black Muslim Jews, right? The black Hebrew Muslims, what they call themselves. And these white people were showing up, kneeling and bowing before these men, and they were kissing the boots of these men. Just, it was like white guilt all of a sudden. I shouldn't have to be proud of something that I am, and I shouldn't be made feel fit to feel guilty because of who I am. And so I told my chief, I said, I'm gonna go do this rally. Okay. I I'm gonna go do this rally, but I will not kiss the boot of a man. I'm not. I don't bow to no man, I bow to Jesus Christ. So if Trump's wrong, Trump is wrong. If Trump is right, he's right. If Biden's wrong, Biden's wrong. If he's right, he's right. It doesn't matter. Either way, they're right or wrong. I prayed for Biden. You asked the church. I stopped service and prayed for him because he was our president. It doesn't matter, and whatever happened in our nation, we spend so much time worrying about what's wrong and we don't look at what's right. That's just it. And to answer your question on YouTube, Audrey, um, every one of them's guilty of felonies. So you want to start pointing out who's right and who's wrong? Everybody that mutilated a child deserves to have their head bashed in. Everybody that murdered a child deserves prison time. So if you regret voting for Trump, that's on you. I don't regret voting for Trump because millions of babies are safe right now. Families are safe because people are being deported that are only here to kill you and murder you. So to answer your question there on YouTube, I don't regret voting Republican because I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for the people that would be saved during that administration. Because the way it was going, we didn't even have a president. We had an auto pen. We had somebody in the background running the show, and the man wasn't even a president. Our nation was collapsing, and it is. But this is just it. I'm talking about it from a Christian perspective. Everything has to happen so that the end can come. But the stupidity of people who are flip flopping over a stupid video, that's what got me. Was the video right? No, it was wrong, 100% wrong. But I'm not going to flip flop my belief system in what I voted for just because of one video that was posted when I see an entire side who refuses to stand up for America, who refused to stand up for a little kid with brain cancer and they just sat there, who refused to stand up for a war veteran that fought so they can have the right to be stupid and protest. I refuse to support a side who supports gender mutilation, who supports genocide of millions of babies. I refuse that. So I'm going to be vocal about it. So you want to talk about racism? Let's talk about history. Let's talk about it. And one day we will do a history lesson on that. But if you follow the Democratic side, you're following the side that was supporting slavery. They want you. Look at what Gavin Newsom just did. I call him Gavin Nuisance. He just basically told them all you can't read. Biden told them all they were stupid. And yet they still vote for him. Not because Trump did anything wrong, because they hate Trump. They only vote one side because of hatred. If you're deciding what you believe out of hatred, there's scriptures after scriptures in the Bible against that. So no, I don't regret voting for Trump, and I would vote for him again. I don't care if the man was convicted of a felony because every one of them have broken the law. You really want to get technical. So let's talk about the list for a minute. Now that we're about halfway through. All right, there's my rant, right? If you have a wound and you keep picking at it, it's going to keep festering. Yes, yes, and yes. Please comment. I love comments. If you want to throw out a stupid comment like what was thrown out on YouTube, I'll respond. But throw out a comment, please, and ask a question. I'll try to answer to the best of my ability, and I'll give you an honest Brandon. And now this is the way I feel about things. And I do pray. And I may be wrong, and that's okay. We can be wrong and agree to disagree. Don't be like the left who praised the murder of a man for simply protesting. Hell, he wasn't even protesting. He was debating. He was debating in a controlled atmosphere. So you want to come at me? Come at me. I don't care. I'm going to tell you that it's stupid and we lack common sense. Be honest with you. And the church jumps on the bandwagon. And immediately they start posting things, and I watch it and I'm going, why did this guy post this? Why are you giving in to this racism stuff again? Why are we bringing it back up? If you look at it, it's a pattern. They're like racist, election fraud, racist, murder, protest, racist. It always goes back to racism because the devil knows what works. He loves playing on old wounds. Racism's wrong. I don't care what culture you're in. I don't care what ethnicity you are. I don't care if you're white, black, orange. I don't care if you're purple. I don't care what color you come out as. Racism is wrong. But don't take the race card bait. Don't take the bait. Don't come at me with that mess. People say if someone comes up to me and says, "Well, you misgendered me." No, I didn't. You're a man or a woman. Simple as that. And just because you lose an appendage by surgery doesn't mean your gender changed. Gender's not based off of the body part. It's based off of your DNA. And so you're born a man, you're a man. You're born a girl, you're a woman. Sorry, there's no other way around it. Bible says it. So anyway, with that being said, I love how the ignorant comments come on YouTube during hot topics and not during church service. That's pretty cool. I like that. So anyway, with that, for those that don't understand, I have YouTube and I have um uh, there you go. There you go. First of all, he wasn't found liable for sexual abuse. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. And they weren't J6 rioters. They were Democrats let in by Democrats. So get your facts straight. I know people who went there and it was not what you think it was. So you want to believe social media, you believe social media. But anyway, with that being said, let me talk about the list for a minute. And I need you to understand something. I am 100% against abuse of anyone, sexual. Look, 125% against the abuse, sexual abuse of children. Okay, if you know me, you know I used to do that for a living. Right, put people like that in jail. I put turds in jail all the time for sexual assault. But I want to talk about this list for a minute. And the church. I want to go ahead and tell you, DNA don't lie. Um, Denali, Dena don't lie. So I want you to think about this for a minute. Where is your distraction? Oh, and by the way, let me show y'all something. Y'all see this? Y'all see the emojis on this comment from YouTube? Oh, Chat GPT arguments are funny. If it has the little check marks in the hearts like that and the little print, that's Chat GPT. So they used AI to come up with an argument because they lack the moral intelligence to argue about something that's real. I just think it's funny. But anyway, let me get back down here because it was hilarious. I'm surprised Stacy didn't jump on that one. But anyway, so I want you to understand something. Everybody has a chance to find Christ. Everybody has a chance, and everybody deserves justice. So let me talk about this list. Everybody for the last I don't know how many years now has been crying for the government to release the Epstein files. Yes, I said it. The forbidden name, the Epstein who didn't kill himself files. And so everybody's been crying for these files and release the files. I want to see his client list. Okay. First of all, he's been in his job since the 80s, so that's a pretty big list if you want a client list. They were thinking that he had a client list for the island. Epstein didn't get to where he was by being stupid. You really think he kept a list of people he brought to the island? That's the first thing I want to say. Um, Look, I'm going to tell you, I wasn't so worried about this list because it proves nothing. And they're like, well, we want all the files released. Okay, the files that were released were accusations against certain people. Everybody wants due process for those being deported, but they don't want due process for those who are being accused of something they may or may have not done. So let's look at this from an aspect, okay? Just because it's their narrative, they want it done now. That is a very big charge to bring someone down. Sexual assault doesn't take okay, I'm going to interview you and going to put you in jail. It doesn't work that way. There is a serious investigation. And when you have to go back that many years, you got to deal with witnesses, witness statements. You can't just go off of their accusation. You have to have proof, evidence. Without evidence, there is no conviction. Now I'm talking court language to you, law enforcement. You have to gather evidence. And when it's that many years back to the 90s, that's a lot of evidence you have to try to gather. It doesn't happen overnight. A sexual assault that is fresh doesn't happen overnight. It's a little bit quicker if you catch it quick, because then you have things like you can get DNA evidence, you can get all these things. And so um, when you're dealing with the Epstein files, you're dealing with years of crap. You can't just throw somebody in jail because somebody complained on them. Let me go and explain this to you. There are people who hate people. I have worked cases where the mom accused a stepdad of raping her 9-year-old daughter, just to find out in working the case that she hacked into his Facebook. She fabricated that he did something. She made it look like he confessed on Facebook, and the man was convicted over something he actually did not do. So you can't believe something somebody says. You have to have evidence. It's a shame, but you can't trust people. So when you see these, you read, and I've been reading the files. I don't just look at what they post on Facebook. I've been going to the DOJ website and reading these files, because I have to have some kind of fire when people come at me with it. And I have to be able to say, you know what? And people, you say, well, why do you care about it? As a pastor, I get a lot of people that call me and say, I'm really confused right now. Well, what do I believe? And I have to redirect them to the Bible, to the Word of God, because there's people that are concerned about it, and rightly so. It's a very evil accusation. I'm not saying they didn't do it. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. What I'm saying is you have to have evidence. In all of that, all you see is pictures of them swimming. You see videos, but you don't actually see the acts of things that happened, that were said to happen. No bodies ever recovered. So let's talk about this list for a minute, okay? I read through the list and I was like, this name's on it, and that one I can see is on it. Yeah, every name that was on the list. But there was a name that drew my attention. And I went, this don't look right. Ready for this one, babe? I know you know. His name is Elvis Presley. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. First of all, if Elvis did die, then he's dead. But if he didn't, he's living in Arkansas and his name's Bob Joyce, right? Right, Jamie? Pastor Jamie? But here's the thing. Elvis Presley is on the client list. Let me give you a little quick timeline. You ready for this? Elvis died in 1977. Epstein did not get promoted to options trader at that Bear Stern business until 1981, or closer to 1982. So Epstein would have never gotten a client list until 1982. He was a junior assistant. He was an assistant to the floor trader, meaning his job was to do all the paperwork. His job was to fetch the coffee. He was an assistant to the trader, but he didn't become an options trader for that company until 1982 officially. It was between 81 and 82. So Elvis dies, well, 78, 79, 80, 81, 5 years before Epstein even starts making money as a trader. He was still volunteer, basically. He was an intern. Now, let's back up for a minute with this Elvis theory. Elvis, okay, died pretty much broke. They tell you about it at Graceland. They're still struggling for money. That's why they have so much going on there. So if Elvis was a friend of Epstein, wait a minute. I'm still trying to process this. So in 1977, he dies. Epstein becomes an options trader in 1982. Elvis died 5 years before. Elvis, there is no history in his financials and he had a booker, he had a CPA. There was no history of him ever investing any money. Because if he would have done that, Elvis was a spender. They tell you all about it. He was not an investor. He didn't even have retirement. There was no money put back for his family. So, how was he on his client list if Elvis never did options trading? He wasn't, because Epstein didn't even start having parties till the 90s. So, unless Elvis is still alive, unless he conjured him up from the dead and did some kind of necromancy stuff, he's still in the ground while Epstein's getting rich. Epstein's didn't start having parties with high-end individuals until he left his company. So back then, he didn't even do all of this. He left his company, I believe it said 1990 or so, or 1988. I can't remember the exact date, but he left that company and started his own. So in the early 90s, he started having parties with these people. So here's where my mom told me, you need to be careful what you say. So Stacy, if I disappear, it was the Secret Service. I'm just saying, you know where to find me. Okay. Probably Guantanamo Bay or something. I don't know. They probably deported me, took away my status. But I'm telling you, this is the part that confuses me about this list. And you want to know why I didn't jump on the bandwagon about release the list, convict everybody? This is the reason why. Because I'm a logical thinker. I'm an analytical thinker. I don't just jump on the bandwagon. Here's what pause. I gotta go get the. I can't pause. He's got to get the kids out of the car. So here's the thing. Just let me know when you get back. So I'll re. You can always rewind. Here's where I'm kind of confused. So there was two other names mentioned on the list. One of them was Barack Obama. The other was Bill Clinton. Now in the 90s was before Barack Obama ever became president. Okay, I can see how he could get away with it. But Clinton was president until 1991. 1991, right? No, sorry, 2001. He was president until 2001, I believe. Either 2000 or 2001. But anyway, that doesn't matter. What matters is there's pictures of him in 2002 and 2003 of Bill Clinton with Epstein. So Epstein purchases the island, I think, in 1998. So these pictures are allegedly at New York. They weren't even in, but he's wearing African gear, and we know he flew him to Africa many times. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not supporting Democrats. I'm not supporting Republicans. I am just telling you what I see and why I'm not jumping on the bandwagon and being distracted by all this. And this is hot topics. This is why I like doing this. Let's look at this for a minute. So Epstein allegedly was eating children with Bill Clinton. Now, mind you, in a normal world, we're like, why does that even make sense? I'm not saying Bill Clinton ever didn't do anything. Here's my question, and here it is, and I'm going to put it out there. They can cancel me. They can come get me. Here it is. If Bill Clinton, who was a former president at the time, was doing that, why didn't Secret Service notify anybody? Now let me go back. Every president cannot deny Secret Service, but a former president can actually deny the use of Secret Service. They can hire their own security, which is kind of pretty much what Trump did in a way. He had security and Secret Service. But Bill Clinton didn't opt out on it. Now, in early 2000s, I was working at Enron Field. No, sorry. They had just changed it to Minute Maid Park. It was where the Astros played. I was working security. Here's where I have a question because George Bush Sr. comes to the Minute Maid Park. They shut security. They knew where he was going. They were on the radio. President, the Eagles on the move and all this stuff. They were just wherever he was, they documented where he went. They knew his exact location. They knew when he went to go to the bathroom. And they knew when he took a bite to eat. They are so detailed. So here's where I'm confused. Former President Clinton never denied Secret Service. He still has them today. If he went to this island, would the Secret Service not have documentation on it? If he met with these children, why wouldn't the Secret Service say something about it? This is where I want you to start questioning reality for a minute. Because I want you to understand why I'm not jumping on this bandwagon, because I have all these questions thinking about why on earth are we so stuck on this list when, first of all, Elvis was dead before Epstein ever did anything, way before. And now you got Bill Clinton who has Secret Service. So either Secret Service knew about it and it shows the deep corruption of our nation. And it's not just corrupt politicians, now it's corrupt departments, which I kind of lean towards. I mean, they're corrupt. Or He never actually did the things he was accused of. You said, well, you're a Republican. You ain't supposed to support Bill Clinton. Look, I'm telling you right now, if Bill Clinton did it, he did it. If he didn't do it, he didn't do it. Same as Trump. They have documentation of Trump calling and turning and reporting Jeffrey Epstein for his creepiness. So this is why I don't jump on the bandwagon of conspiracies, because I'm going to think it through. Do I think something evil could have happened? Yes. Do I think that it happened the way we think it happened? No. Do I think the list is bogus? Come on, look at how many people have had their hands on this list. If the Democrats had something on Trump, why didn't they turn the list in beforehand? I'm going to tell you all why, and you ain't going to like my answer because it's not very conspiracy. They don't have enough evidence to convict anyone. They don't. You want to know why nobody's being arrested right now? Because there's not enough substantial, liable evidence. That's why. You can't just arrest somebody without evidence. You have to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt. There is a thing called why do we support due process for illegals, but we can't support it for Americans? Because you could possibly convict someone who never had anything to do with it. Because most of you are so power hungry, you want to see someone go down so bad that you don't care who at some point. And I'm going to be the first to tell you, if Trump did it, convict him. If Biden was involved, convict him. If Bill Clinton, but you got to have the evidence. So now let me tell you why I'm not so concerned about this list, and actually had somebody come against me over it. And I'm going to tell you why. The only list you need to worry about right now is the list, because God said, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. You give it to him, he will expose darkness. You're crying out to the corrupt government to give you a justification. Oh, that's good. You're crying for a corrupt government to give you a right justification. That's never going to happen. What you need to do is cry out to God to expose the darkness. Bring the light to expose the darkness. Because God said, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And he said it'd be better for them to have a millstone tied around his neck than to do harm to one of them little ones. So I promise you this, that if you give it to God, he will rectify the situation. This is where I get biblical. Because I don't trust the list. I don't even trust the files. I don't trust government as a whole. Because you can't show me a decade where government has never let us down. But I tell you who I do trust, and his name is Jesus. So my question to you tonight is, where's your focus? Are you focused on that list or the list that gets you in heaven? That's the question here. Because if somebody does wrong to the little ones, yes, they deserve what's coming to them. But if they didn't do it, my God, it doesn't matter if they come out with substantial, liable proof and evidence that Donald Trump didn't do anything with it, they'd still not believe it. They wouldn't. They're bloodthirsty. You followers of Christ are seeking hatred to people, anger. At some point, you have to understand that you're not walking in the spirit. You're walking according to your flesh. In the book of life, the Lamb's book of life, that's correct, is the list that we need to worry about right now. Because time's drawing short. You don't see this as a distraction, then your preacher ain't telling you right. This is a distraction, y'all. Look, I'm very political. Okay, I hate politics, and that's what makes me political. I will come against politicians all day long. I've had plenty of conversations with them and emails. I sent letters to Chucky Schumer to tell him he was stupid and to open the government. I look, I will not play their game. But one thing I won't do is let it distract me from the Great Commission. You want to know why the Great Commission is not being fulfilled? It's because we're not fulfilling it. Because we can't even show the world that we're together as one body, because we're not. You got one side that is driven by politics, and you have one side that's driven by religion. And both sides can't come together. You know why? Because you're not following the Lamb. You're not following Jesus. You're not looking for the lion. You're looking for the noose. You're looking for the firing squad. God said, vengeance is mine. Let him have his vengeance. You pray. You seek his face. You vote right. And you trust that he's going to bring the darkness to light. Because there ain't no amount of picket signs, there ain't no amount of shouting, there ain't no amount of protesting that's going to change anyone in government. You're wasting your breath. So this is my message to those on the left on YouTube that have a tendency to flip flop because they were never truly supporters of good. You have to put your mind focused on things that are good. How do we overcome evil with good? If you're still look like the world while you're trying to save people, you're never going to save people. But if you look like Jesus while you're doing it, you're going to reach the lost. They're looking at what we're doing. They're not listening to what we're saying. I love what was said today. They know we believe in God. They know we love God. They know where we stand with him, but they don't know where we stand with them. How will you ever reach someone if you don't first go to them and say, let me tell you why I believe in Jesus. Let me tell you the reason. Now, if you want to argue politically, I'll argue with you politically. But when it comes to the word of God, I'm not going to scream the word at you. I'm going to show you. We had a girl that came in and she was at work and she didn't want to tell me her name because she didn't want me to misgender her. I didn't give in and compromise, and all the while still respected her. I did. Now she's walking out. I said, thank you, ma'am. But I said that to everybody. But she didn't get mad at me because I still treated her with love. I didn't look at her and go, you're going to hell as she walked in. No. Because why? Because Jesus wouldn't have said that. Jesus would have looked at her and said, where are your accusers? Even I don't accuse you. Now, I don't affirm it. I'm not going to give in to it. But I'm going to let her know that Jesus does love her. She may not quite yet be a child of God, but guess what? He does love her. And how can the people know if there's no one to preach to them? So what do I see? Yeah. So what do I see all over Facebook? Release the list. Release the files. You know what I hear? Release Barabbas. You guys want justification and a liberator so bad that you're missing Jesus. Release the files, release the files, release the files. Jesus is saying, release me so that I can save them and bring the true justice. That's all I hear is release Barabbas. So if you're a follower of Christ and your focus is on the destruction of someone else rather than the vindication, don't blanket and tell me that I just worried about these children. No, you weren't. No, you're not. You're worried about being right in this moment. You're worried about feeding your flesh and seeing that come down. You need to be worried about their souls just as much as you are the other ones. I believe justice will come, but I'm not going to be so focused on the list that it changes my entire life. It's not going to change the way I see things. It's not going to change the way I see prophecy. And I'll probably lose a lot of friends over this, and that's okay. Secret Service might come at me because I said they're the ones that are corrupt. I still think they're the ones that killed JFK, but don't quote me on that. Oh wait, I said it. They have to. But I don't trust any government organization. I don't. And because they'll cut your throat to save their organization. What I do trust is Jesus. Because we fought real hard against a corrupt mayor. And she came down. She did. We will fight any corrupt government. I don't trust them. I don't care, Republican or Democrat, two heads to one snake. There's a lot of corruption. Who are you going to trust? The lawyers that were voted in office that run your country? Or are you going to trust Jesus who died for you and said, come unto me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Yeah. For my yoke is easy My burden's light. So which one are you going to trust? John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. 3:17, for he did not come to this world to condemn it, but that through him the world might be saved. Notice it said through him. It didn't say through man's justification. So what are you going to whose report are you going to believe? The report of the DOJ? Or are you going to believe the report of God where he said, I will repay? He said that in Romans. So which list you want to be on? Which list you want to worry about? The one that's got a dead man on that never met Epstein? They say that he met him a few times. There's no evidence in that. That was a speculation. He was really young and he wasn't even nobody of any kind of note or anything. He was still an intern. So who are you going to believe? A list put together by corrupt politicians? Or are you going to believe the Bible where it says these things must come to pass? So church, this tonight, anybody watching, I want to encourage you to focus on the gospel. Focus on the Lord. Focus on your salvation and winning souls for the kingdom of God, and focus less on what's happening in our government. Now, we fight for your rights through the government, but your job is to win souls, not to worry about what's on the list or who's on the list. What are you going to do about it anyway if they tell you? I mean, think about it. Gripe some more, yeah. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? If they tell you who's on the list, what are you going to do about it? Think about it. Nothing. There is something you can do. Reach your neighbor. Reach the lady at the store. Tell them about the gospel. Gossip the gospel. The hour you spend trying to figure out what you're going to type on Facebook, you can spend that hour in prayer, getting closer to him. So my encouragement to you tonight is this: do not be distracted by the things of the world. Do not be distracted by ignorance. Do not be distracted by social media. Don't. But rather be obedient to him. That's it. That's Hot Topics tonight. That's my thought process on this stupid list. I see some names on there that don't match up. There's dates that don't match up. I see an entire millions of documents and pages of stuff that does not prove nothing other than people are going to people. And corruption is going to be corrupt. And what are you really going to do about it? Because DNA only lasts so long. I'm sorry. DNA evidence. So with that being said, I'm going to jump off of here. And so far, my house hasn't been stormed by Secret Service. I think we're doing pretty good. And just turn in your assignment first over there at school. You know, we just want to reach people. We don't want to be involved in people. Why do these topics come up? Hot Topics is every now and then I'll bring on guests. But tonight, I wanted to talk about something that's been distracting the church. Don't jump on the racism bandwagon. Don't jump on the Epstein bandwagon. Don't jump on the corruption in the church bandwagon or the corruption in the government bandwagon. It's there. You have a job to do, and Jesus never said worry about your neighbor. He said actually to worry about your own. Paul said stir up the gifts within you. He didn't say go stir up problems within each other. So worry about yourself, right? Amen. Look, that's Michael. You just hit the nail on the head, brother. If news distracts you to the point where it aggravates you, stop watching it. The only reason why I keep up with things that happen is because people always send them to me and they ask me to, because they know I do the podcast, because they know I'm going to shoot as straight as I can with you, because I don't hold allegiance to any political party. I hold allegiance to Jesus, and if one party helps me get this out a little bit better and helps with our freedom, I'm going to support that party while I'm going to fight what they're guilty of. And so, and I don't have a problem speaking my mind. Ask some of my coworkers. I've been speaking it for about 3 days now. And so I'll continue to speak it because they know me. They know I'll tell you if you're wrong. I threatened to arrest a mayor one day. Went and told, this was in Texas. I went and told my chief, I said, hey, mayor's got a gun in the courthouse. She's not supposed to. I'm about to go hook her up. He said, let me fix it. And I was going to, because I don't care who you are. If you are wrong, you're wrong. You are. If you're right, you're right. But it doesn't matter right or wrong. Everyone has a chance. You know, Republican or Democrat, we have a chance to reach them. I've been hitting Ilhan Omar hard. I made a meme about her. But you know what? If it opens the door to talk to her, then praise God. I had to ask forgiveness earlier, so I'm telling you, it's stupid. When you support the murder of babies, when you support, the killings of Americans, but you can't stand up for your own people, you shouldn't be in office. It's simple as that. I think that the majority of Congress and Senate, including the Supreme Court justice, needs to step down because they are unfit to be in that position because they do not represent us as a nation. That's like here in West Virginia. I found out people still have to pay taxes on their vehicles. What? Look, you already pay property tax. Why on earth do we have to pay property tax on a property you own? You don't ever truly own it then. And then I found out today that every year they have to pay a certain tax on their vehicle. You own your vehicle, but you don't own it? Look, corruption's deep. We got to live in it, but we don't have to let it live us. So, with that being said, I love every one of y'all. This has been Hot Topics. And if next week we will not have it because next week is full rehearsals all week for the play. So for the next couple weeks, we are going to be tied up every day. But praise God that we're able to do it. Thank you, Michael. I love you too, brother. You've been a huge blessing to us, and I just being around you and Michelle, it's amazing. I'm glad I got to meet you, brother. I am. So I love every one of y'all. Thank you for supporting us, and thank you for being a part of Hot Topics. Share this, and not to make people mad, but to let them know, look, you need to start thinking outside the box. Don't just think about what this tells you. Don't think about what AI. Don't think about what uh Google says. Don't think about what. Don't look at Wikipedia. You know, hello. Don't follow what social media says because it's gonna do nothing but make you mad. If you spent the amount of time you spend on your phone in this, man, you'd be a lot better off. And so I don't get mad at the news anymore. I used to. Actually, it points me back to the Bible because I can literally line it up. So, um, yes, double tax it. You know, he's gonna keep me going. I love it. So, taxation without we are not being represented. The whole purpose of this country, really, other than religious freedom, was taxation without representation. They were being taxed on everything. We got sales tax, we got property tax, we got road tax. You're taxed on everything. You're taxed on your light bill. You're taxed on your water bill. Everything is taxed. Vehicle tax, I found out. Income tax. You're taxed on your income. You earn it, but you don't. So let's really look at that for a minute. Taxing was started as a war tax. We're not in a war. So when should it stop? I vote now. And here's my thought process. If you are of retirement age, you should never have to pay taxes on anything. If you're a veteran that fought for this country, I believe you earned your right to not be taxed. I believe you do. That's just my personal opinion on that. And if I was a governor or, you know, U.S. congressman or a president, I would push for that because I would push for no property taxes. I would push for all that. Why? Because the government doesn't need that to fund. It doesn't. And if it does, then it's their fault. They need to put tariffs on people. If they would stop fighting Trump, he would make it to where taxes wouldn't be a really big problem. He's a businessman. That's what he does. He don't want to pay higher tax rates. He's rich. So anyway, with that being said, yeah, don't think about what your husband says. So with that being said, look, pray about it. Pray. Stop being so worried about what they're saying. Stop worrying about the stupid list because there's names on there that honestly it would have been impossible for them to have met. Do I think that the Clintons had a big hand in all that? Yeah, I do. Personally. Is there evidence? Do I know for sure? No, there's not. But I do know timelines are a little bit weird. So if you missed what I said earlier, and to those that shared it with their Secret Service buddy, if you missed what I said earlier about the Secret Service, go back and watch it. I'll be waiting. So sorry, I just can't help it because I know they monitor. And anytime you say anything, they monitor on here. But I want to know how deep the corruption is, and but I'm not going to let it determine how I live my life. We're going to reach the lost. We're going to build the kingdom, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it great. So there you go. There you go. You shouldn't have to. They should be paying you because you're a veteran and 65 years old. Yep. I can't believe you're 65. Good Lord. You don't look 65. Man, you're in good shape. Stacy, too. I didn't realize Stacy was in his 60s. But anyway, so, um, anyway, I'm going to get off of here and let you know I love you. And I want to thank you for joining us for Hot Topics one more. It'll be another couple weeks before we get there. Uh, this country showed. Yeah, they should be paying you back. Amen. So I love every one of y'all. Thank you again. I'll let you know when Hot Topics comes back, and we're gonna have another juicy topic for you. I love y'all. God bless you, and have a wonderful day. And y'all be praying for Audrey on YouTube. Pray that she or he, whatever he she gets saved.